The field of human design is an interesting topic that I really didn't know much about before having my conversation with my guest today. So I'd heard people talk about it, but I didn't really understand what it was about. So I was thrilled to bring on my guest today, Kelsey Abbott, who is an intuitive human design and money coach who uses science and spirituality and play to help people welcome more ease and abundance and joy into their lives. So Kelsey has a scientific background like me, so it was really interesting to hear about her journey into this more spiritual world and the difference that it has made for her personally as well as her clients. So in addition to being a coach, Kelsey also lives a wonderful life in Florida as she is also an accomplished triathlon racer and takes plenty of time to play in nature with her husband and her dog, Zumi. So one of the things that we talk about in this episode is the various ways that human design can influence your health and how you can use it to optimize your well-being if you feel called to go further down the path with human design. So we talk about the fact that we are all different and we are all unique, and how what works for one person is not going to work for another person, something that I know to be true from my many years in the medical field. What I enjoyed learning about in terms of human design during this conversation with Kelsey is the permission to be unique and the permission to listen to your intuition, which I think are things that so many of us have had drummed out of us. So without further ado, let's get into today's conversation. Well, hey, Kelsey, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Kim. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I am so happy to have you on the show because we're going to be talking about a topic that I know a lot of people are interested in and intrigued by. And this is a field that you're obviously an expert in, Kelsey. So I know that you're going to be such a great person to talk to about this. I mean, of course, I'm talking about human design. And I have to tell you, Kelsey, that I actually know very little about human design. So I'm super excited to learn more about it and also, of course, learn how it can improve the lives of the members of my community.
I'm curious, when did you first even hear the term?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I've seen it kind of floating across my radar on like YouTube videos and the odd podcast episode and just like things that are kind of come in and out, but I've never had the opportunity to really kind of take a deep dive. So I have a sense of what it's about, but maybe it's not even accurate because I'm sure that there are all sorts of myths and things like that out there about what human design is about. So I'm excited to just I'm just going to hear about like the whole thing, and not the whole thing. I'm sure there's quite a bit to it, right? But just like the key aspect of it.
Yeah.
What is it all about? Let's just start by giving our audience a bit more context about you. I'd love for you just to introduce yourself, give us your backstory, and I'd really be interested to know what brought you to this whole world of human design.
Yes. So thank you for asking. So I started out after college, I went on and got my master's. I became a marine biologist and I studied killer whales primarily and also coral reef fish before that. So then I made some jumps to coaching, professional coaching. I started a podcast. I mean, I was a psychology major in college, so coaching wasn't completely out of the blue, but it was a bounce, which, as we'll get to, is aligned with my design. So I started a podcast. It's 6 years old now, the Find Your Awesome podcast. And I was interviewing someone on the podcast, and I can't remember if we were recording or not when she said, "Have you heard of human design?" And I was like, like anatomy? I was so confused.
It does sound like that.
And all she said was, "No, you need to know your birth time." And then I was even more confused. I was like, "Well, I know that."
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So after we finished recording, I'm Googling and then pulling up this site where you can pull up your birth time. I think I Googled human design birth time because I'm like, what do I need to do with this? So I pull up my chart. And I don't know if you've seen a human design chart yet, but
I haven't. Well, actually, maybe I have, but yeah, carry on.
So it's like a profile of a human head wearing a tent with all these different colored centers in it in different shapes. And I was like, what is this? And it said I was a manifesting generator, a 4/6, emotional, all this stuff. I'm like, I don't know what to do with any of this information.
Hmm.
And I was uninterested. I was like, okay, went for a bike ride. And then I just started like got this nudge to just Google manifesting generator a few days later. And finally I read the phrase, manifesting generators are warrior Buddhas. And I was like, oh, that resonates with me so deeply. And so then
Hmm.
I was like, okay, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more, until I eventually fell all the way down the human design rabbit hole. So, to answer your question of who I am and what I'm doing, I'm an intuitive human design and money coach who helps people bring more ease, joy, and abundance into their lives. And I use human design as a huge tool for that. Uh, I always felt like my coaching clients, there was this piece that was missing and I didn't know what it was. And then I learned human design and was like, oh my goodness, that is the solid piece that I can use to remind my clients as they're saying, well, I'm having trouble doing this. Yeah, because it's completely energetically unaligned for you. Let's look at it and get back in your gifts and use those so you're moving in alignment the way your soul chose for you to do it rather than being completely on the struggle bus.
Right. Okay. So, yes, I mean, this is one of the things that you say, right? Is that human design can help you get off that struggle bus and onto, I think you
Hmm.
call it the ease train, right? But I'd
Yes.
love to know, like, tell me more about that. What do you mean by that exactly? Give me some more details.
Okay, so before we were born, each one of us, our souls got called to Earth School and they got so excited because there's nothing else like Earth School. Being able to play in these physical bodies and play with other beings in their physical bodies, it is such an incredible experience. You know, we bounce off each other and all of that. So before we got called to Earth School, our souls chose all the gifts we would need to be who we're supposed to be and do what we're supposed to do. And then they sprinkled all those gifts in this thing that we call a soul blueprint or a human design chart, and then chose the exact time, date, and place where we would be born to seal the deal on that chart, on that blueprint. And then on day one, the day we were born, we know it all. And on day two, we start forgetting it. And then as we progress, as we grow up, wonderful, loving people tell us how to do things. And that is the conditioning.
Hmm.
They tell us, like, move through life in this way and this way and this way, and don't do it this way. So eventually, we learn human design. We learn that there's this weird thing called human design, and we get curious about it, and we see our charts, and we find someone to help us interpret that chart. And we realize that our soul picked out the way for us to do everything. And it's all right here. And it's incredible and it's beautiful. And when we live in alignment with that, it all gets to be so easy.
Hmm.
That all the ways that society's been telling us to do things is wrong for like 95% of the people, if not 100% of the people.
Hmm.
That we all have our own unique way of doing things. In fact, every single one of us is totally unique. I love that so much because I feel like society loves to tell people they're doing life wrong. And
Yes.
no, you're doing it your way. And isn't it amazing that people want to like climb Everest? I don't want to climb Everest. That people want to like go, I don't know, they want to be the people that work in the sewers. That's great. It lights them up. I could have picked something like being an accountant, which also doesn't light me up, but I went for sewer instead. But we need people to love doing different things, to be good at different things, so we can all fit together and rise together. We need each other's gifts.
Mm. I love that emphasis on the uniqueness of people because absolutely. I mean, I think it is one of the big barriers out there right now in terms of choosing your own wellness pathway and finding your way to wellness is feeling like there's one right way to do things and then a whole bunch of wrong ways, right? And so it's like
Yes.
and because there's people who are saying this is the way that it needs to be. This
Mhm.
is how you can get healthy, heal yourself, lose weight, whatever it is that you're trying to do. So I love that this approach emphasizes that we're all different, and that's a beautiful thing. But it's more about like learning in what ways you're different and how to lean into that and embrace that. Is that accurate though? Like, is that sort of a key part of human design?
Yeah, 100%. There are pieces in your chart that'll tell you some people go ahead and try fasting.
Mhm.
Other people, fasting is not designed for you. Do not do that. Some people are designed to have like and this is me, like same breakfast every single day
Mhm.
until your body tells you no.
Right.
We are taught, to eat a variety, eat as much variety as possible. But people with my particular digestion, we get our variety over the course of a year instead of in one day or in a couple weeks, because we get in these ruts of I'm currently my big conundrum in my mind is I've made these amazing cauliflower tacos. That's a lie. They were supposed to be tacos and I made them into a taco bowl. So
Okay.
no tortilla. We did rice instead. The whole thing was absolutely delicious. We had it last night and the night before. And I'm like, well, that's what I want again tonight.
Mm.
So do I make it again or I should have something different? And this is so my variety comes, I'll get my cauliflower fix over the next, this week, and then I'll be onto something else next week or whenever the time comes.
So interesting. And I love you calling out on the should, right? Because we we have this messaging comes at
Mhm.
us explicitly and implied in so many different ways is that you should be doing it this way. So I love that this framework goes against that. But tell me, so is all of this information, if I'm to understand this, comes from your chart? Is that explain that piece of the chart to me? Because I'd love to know a little bit more about how that goes.
Like where it is in the chart or where the chart comes from?
No, actually, I guess either, but I'm wondering, because we're talking about, your digestion, your individual,
Mhm.
tendencies and qualities and, preferences and all that stuff. Is that information within the realm of human design? Is that contained within or is there a process that people discover it for themselves? Tell me about how that goes.
Mm. Okay, so first of all, human design it's called the human design experiment.
Okay.
So it's supposed to take you 7 years to truly embody your human design. And that's 7 years of conscious work,
Mm.
trying and experimenting and trying things on. Because yes, your soul blueprint says this, and you get to try out what does that mean for you? What does it look like in 2023 in your body, in society? we're not we're not cavemen anymore. So what does it look like in real life and how can you maximize it? For instance, some people are designed to digest food and life best at night
Mm.
in indirect light, meaning when it's not sunny out. So do these people become vampires? What if they have a 9 to 5 job and that doesn't fly with them? But can they move? Can they eat their biggest meal at night? And then it does living I lived in Seattle for one summer
Uh-huh.
and it was light a lot. Or take Alaska, someplace like that, where so does that mean I don't eat all summer except for that I eat at midnight when it's kind of dark?
Yeah.
There you gotta bring it to your real life and have fun with it. So all of this information is in your chart. It's not spelled out for you.
Yes. Okay.
It's in an arrow and you got to figure out how to read it or find somebody who can read it for you.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. So it's not like it's prescribing, rigid categories of it has to be this way for you. But it's more like this is some information for you to work with. And now go forward and take that information, but figure out how it works for you and how it sort of applies to your current situation and all of those kinds of things and how to make it work for you. And I love that it's like a 7-year journey. There's no hurrying there. That's fantastic. It's certainly not a quick fix. I like that.
Exactly. And I do like to remind people, hey, if you're learning human design on your own, if you come across something that makes you feel icky, that makes you feel trapped, that makes you feel like you can't do life the way you want to do it, please reach out to me because there are some icky ways to look at human design. And I like to look at high vibe human design. I believe it's a tool. We spend plenty of time talking about what's wrong with us, exploring our dark depths. Human design is a tool to give you permission to live life the way you've always known that you're supposed to live it.
Mm.
It's your ticket to ease, to joy, and to abundance. Because when you're living in alignment and you're owning and celebrating your gifts,
Mhm.
the universe just wants to shower you with goodies.
Yeah. So it feels like it's like a framework that gives you a starting point. Is that, and then you can kind of go forward from there. Um, And that starting point, it sounds like that all originates from like your birth time, which I have to say sounds a lot like astrology. I think that I have read this, that like human design is like personal development meets astrology or some other kind of like recipe. But is that a myth or is that accurate? Like, what would you say about that?
Yeah, so human design combines astrology, the chakra system, the Kabbalah tree of life, and the I Ching.
Hmm.
And remember, I said I started out as a marine biologist,
Yes.
so I come from a scientific background. As I was learning human design, I dug all the way into my chart and was like, holy moly, this is amazing. I feel incredible. As I learn more and more and more, it just keeps getting better and better. I wonder if this is true for everyone else.
Hmm.
So I gave free mini readings to people. I did like 100 of them. Every single person felt the same way.
Hmm.
So my takeaway is, you know what? If it is all complete, like whatever, it helps
Yeah.
people. So let's use it.
I appreciate that approach. I really like that approach. I mean, like obviously I come from a medical background and we talk about the placebo effect as though it's a bad thing. And the placebo effect is not a bad thing. It's not trickery. It's that the mind is powerful. And we do have the ability to heal ourselves. And part of that really begins with belief. And so something like this sort of framework, where it does have clearly, it seems to me, a very strong element of like belief and woo and like all that kind of like spiritual stuff, which is, I love that stuff, but it's not everybody's cup of tea for sure. But it just really taps into the power of our belief in ourselves and belief in something bigger than ourselves and using that for good, right? Like we get to use
Absolutely.
that for
Yes.
good. So I like that approach. Okay, so I love that it blends all of those like spiritual traditions. That's very cool. And then you get this, you receive a chart. And now, do you need to be? Is it? Tell me about the importance of if you're really interested, the importance of working with somebody who is an expert in this and knows what they're doing and can, because it sounds like you were able to kind of take the info and dive into it for yourself. But what
I
about,
did that
yeah.
and then I trained with an
Okay.
expert.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So some of us are designed to learn from our people.
Hmm.
That's me. Other people are designed, they will, even if they are learning from their people, they will be hungry for all of the books and all of the everything. So, and the books are like, there's conflicting stuff in the books.
Yeah.
So then you take the books and you're like, oh, okay, which of this do I want to believe for myself and for the people in my life? And you get to sift and sort it. And whichever style works for you, go for it.
Yeah.
Whatever feels easy for you.
Yeah. I like the flexibility in that. That feels good. And I believe that being in alignment is kind of a key thing for human design. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would love to hear more about that. Like how do people know when they're in alignment and how do they know when they're out of
Mm.
alignment? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so broad brush, if you're on the struggle bus, you're out of alignment.
Okay.
If you're having so much fun, you're in alignment.
Hmm.
Now, human design, there are so many levels of this, but the top level of human design is your energy type. There are 5 different energy types, and your energy type will describe how you are designed to dance with the energy around you.
Hmm.
So there are generators, manifestors, projectors, and reflectors. If you are a generator or a manifesting generator, when you feel satisfied, like, okay, this is my image for satisfaction. I used to teach some lessons in Washington, D.C., and I taught this group of kids. They were like the pre-swim team kids.
Okay.
And they were all diplomats' children. I don't know who went with who, but they're like very important
Hmm.
parents. And the kids, all of them were super talkative and they like very well spoken. And then there was Jesse. Jesse was quiet. Jesse had a mullet. He wore yellow swim trunks and he didn't talk so much. When we did breaststroke, Jesse nailed it. And I told him that. I was like, Jesse, that was amazing. And he goes, yes. This is the first time I'd really ever heard him speak. And that is satisfaction.
Mm,
So if you're a generator or a manifesting generator, when you feel that yes, you're doing it, you're in alignment.
okay.
And if you're a generator or a manifesting generator and you feel frustrated, that means you're out of alignment.
Okay.
Now, if you're a projector, when you feel success, you are in alignment. When you feel bitter, you're out of alignment. And we can have this complete intellectual discussion over what is success. Success is exactly what you think it is. So it is how you define success. So if you feel successful, you're in alignment. If you feel bitter, you're out of alignment. If you are a manifester, when you feel peace, again, your definition of peace, then you're in alignment. When you feel anger, you're out of alignment. And then this is my favorite. It's not my energy type, but if you're a reflector, when you feel surprised, you're in alignment. And when you feel disappointed, you're out of alignment.
Oh, that's interesting. Like the surprise. Do you have an example of that? Like, what would that feel like?
Yeah. So reflectors are designed. So when you look at the human design chart, I mentioned that there's a bunch of different shapes and colors. A reflector's chart will be all white.
Okay.
There will be a bunch of different shapes still, but they don't have any defined energy centers, which means that they are feeling and amplifying everyone else's energy all day, every day, meaning they are a different person. If they move rooms, if they move places, if they're talking to a different person, if they're listening to a podcast, they are designed to be totally fluid.
Okay.
And as a result, surprised. But if they go in expecting themselves to be something and then they're not and they feel disappointed, then they're out of alignment.
Okay, got it. And so, and that piece, like, you know, the definition or sort of description of your own personal alignment or not in alignment, that's coming from and figuring out what you are, what your energy type is. That's coming from your chart, right? Like that's something
Yes.
okay.
All of this stuff comes from your chart.
Okay, got it. All right. And so I'm really curious to know, like, how can understand, because I'd love to know the application of all of this stuff. Like, how can understanding your human design as you start to go on that journey, like, how can that improve and optimize your health specifically, like your health and well-being?
Okay, so your health, every one of those centers is correlated with a body part.
Okay.
So if you're using your center incorrectly, it might show up. It might show up in your health. So take, for instance, if you have an open root center. Now, as I say root center, people think root chakra.
Yeah, I was going to say this sounds
similar,
very chakra. Okay.
Not exactly the same.
Okay.
The root is connected with the adrenal system. So people who have an open root are very prone to adrenal fatigue. If they're trying to push, they will get adrenal fatigue.
Okay.
All right. So that's one layer.
Yes.
of how human design can be connected with your wellness. Then there's maybe you're designed for consistency, maybe you're not. There is your digestive type.
All right. Okay.
Which I mentioned, mine is that repetition bit in it. So, and it's totally different. Some people it's to eat in a quiet place, or some people need to eat with noise. Your environment is also important. And I'm not talking, well, actually, and again, environment is weird. There are types like caves, which is mine, which means I thrive in places. For me, it's blended caves. So I thrive with a bunch of people in a defined space. So a wide open, expansive field with like no edges, that probably not my place.
Okay.
Actually, let me rephrase that to give you a better example. So I was a marine biologist. There's zero desire to go to sea for long periods of time.
Yeah.
Because there's no cave there unless you're on the boat, which is then a little claustrophobic. Because you don't want to be like with all the people in a small room. But they define it typically as like an actual room with 4 walls, but I've noticed it's not because I swim in an outdoor pool here, a 50-meter outdoor pool, so huge space, but there are boundaries to it. And it feels like I totally find my people there, and it's absolutely my environment. So there's environment, there's digestion, there's consistency, there's and lack of consistency. There's being everything is affected by your chart. So whether you're designed to be specific or non-specific, whether you beyond your digestion, just how you should eat, there's how much sleep you need. That is also in your chart. What else? Like some people really are going to do like 3 workouts a day and it's totally aligned and normal for them. Other people, like 3 a week would be gold star worthy. And that's in your chart. All of this is in your chart.
That's so fascinating because, of course, like as you're describing this, I can think of we all have these individual tendencies, right? Like some people prefer, and I mean, we break them down into like more conventionally into simplified categories like introvert, extrovert, and stuff like that. But this is much more of a robust and complex framework to really reflect how that we're not simple organisms that are like either one thing or another thing. It's just so there's shades and subtleties and nuance to all of these pieces, but it all comes into like creating your own unique fingerprint of like what's going to work for you. What are your vulnerabilities? What are your preferences? How do you get best in alignment from physical things, environmental, like all of those things. So it sounds like an incredibly robust system. So much information would come from, I can see how you just took a deep dive and then like resurfaced and changed did you change your whole career trajectory, like your focus for your podcast?
No.
And like, tell me, okay, what happened?
So I was actually living mostly in alignment. And instead I got the Jessie yes to like, oh, I get to do it the way I wanted to do it. And everyone else started to make sense too. I mean, that's a huge part.
Yeah.
It's so helpful for relationships. But for instance, one of my big ahas early on was I mentioned whether you're specific or non-specific. I was working with a business coach at the time who kept telling me, Kelsey, you have to be more specific. And I would try to be specific. Like I will say I avoided it for like 2 months. And then finally I was like, fine, I'll be specific. And when I was specific, it was like the brakes were slammed. All of a sudden, everything, I felt completely disconnected from everything. It just felt horrible. Then it was literally like 2 weeks later that I learned, oh, I'm not designed to be specific. And when I am specific, that brake slamming thing is exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. So what I love about what you just said, Kelsey, is that it's like it gives permission to really tap into I think many people would call this their intuition, right? Like we know deep down what is actually right for us and wrong for us, but we suppress so much of that stuff because of what society tells us, what a teacher tells us, what a parent tells us, like all of these messages coming to us, and we ignore that intuition. But it sounds like this is such a powerful framework for giving you permission to tap into that intuitive, what you already know about yourself and how you can be best thriving in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. This is why I tell people you got to be brave enough to be a weirdo. Because okay, so we listen to our intuition. Some of us are great at listening to our intuition. We listen over and over and over again. And when society is just screaming, and I consider it bullying, saying you got to do it this way, eventually it's just, okay, fine.
Right.
I'm going to do it this way. I think even the strongest people are going to cave to the societal pressure. And so this is your permission to be like, that's not how I roll. See right here in my chart? That's how I'm designed to do it. And that's how I'm going to continue to do it. And it's so much fun. See me over here having fun? Do you want to have fun too? Then you go do it your way and look at your chart and find your own unique way of doing it. How about we both be total weirdos and go off in completely different directions and be so happy together apart.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it is really, I think I know we have just scratched the surface here of like this really powerful framework that it seems like a lot of people have gained a lot of wisdom from it. And it certainly has changed your life too, which is amazing. And yeah, this has just been such a fascinating conversation because, like I said, I really only knew very surface level of what human design was about. So, I mean, I still know that there's a lot more to learn, but it's just been so great to have you share these insights with us, Kelsey.
Well, I have had so much fun. Have you pulled your chart yet?
No, I haven't. So I guess that's my next step, right? I would be
Yeah,
very curious.
absolutely.
Okay, cool. And that's
And
and
I
is
can do
that
that
what
for
that
you.
is that for people who are interested in this, that's the very next thing to do
Mhm.
is to access your chart.
Yeah. So I guess the next step is to find your birth time if you don't already know it.
Hmm.
It should be on your birth certificate.
Okay.
If it's not on your birth certificate, as far as I know, well, there are nice people everywhere, but like you can call the city where you were born and they might just tell you your birth time if they're super nice, or they'll issue you an expanded birth certificate, which will have your birth time on it. For some people, it's a wild goose
Yeah.
chase. Maybe your parents have it in a baby book, but get that birth time precisely because it matters. And there are things in the chart that will change minute to minute.
Fascinating. Okay, cool. Well, this has just been really fun, Kelsey. Like, really, it's just a fascinating topic, and so many interesting things for people to learn about and start to explore. Before I let you go, of course, like, tell us where people can go to learn more about you and connect with you.
Come on over to kelseyabbott.com, and that's where I will pull your chart for you. So come on over and get your free chart from me.
Okay, perfect. I will put that link in the show notes so that people can easily find.
Thank you.
And have an amazing day, Kelsey. Thank you so much for being here with me. I hope that you enjoyed sitting in on my conversation with Kelsey, and I would love to hear your thoughts. And I'm really curious, is human design something that you use currently? If it is, I would love to know how your experience has been with it and how it has helped you. So if you're watching me on YouTube, just drop me a comment below this video, or if you're listening to the audio of this episode, then find me on Instagram and let me know. I would love to hear from you, and I would love to continue this conversation. Okay, that's a wrap for today. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you again very soon.